Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Beat Your Addiction, John Giordano's podcast. The man to my left there, I'm your co-host, Scott Jones, and we appreciate you joining us as always. And please, we remind you that if you like the content, if you like this show, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, click on the button so that you can get the notifications, and of course, share it with people. It's important that we put this information out there and we learn about these things for you in the world of mental health and addiction and everything else, so that other people can experience it. So please share it. We would appreciate that. And don't forget that if you ever want to get more information about this show or about John himself, it's johnjgiordano.com. The J is the initial J, johnjgiordano.com. His contact information, everything you need to know is right there. Isn't that right, John?
I believe so. And any of my books that you want to see and the research papers and, all of that you'll see on my website.
Fantastic. It's good to see you again, my friend. So let's get it kicked off. And we've got a special guest coming to us from up in the North Country, up in Canada. This is Kiosh. Did I say that right?
Kiosh. No,
Kiosh. Kiosh. This is Kiosh Iselin, who is a lover of life. He is the co-founder, or he's the founder, the founder of the Desire Clinic. Now, we could just marinate on that for a minute, because that could mean 1,000 different things before we explain it, because where my mind goes, it's probably not going to be quite like that. So let's just think about it. But Kiosh Iselin, again, we appreciate you taking your time and joining us here on Beat Your Addiction. How are you today?
I'm really, really good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. And, I know John sought you out to bring you in to talk about your clinic. So why don't you guys go ahead and kick it off?
Let's hear about some of your methodology, some of the, where you come from, how, you approach the subject of dopamine and serotonin and
all of that. Yeah. So my clinic is called the Desire Clinic, which can very easily be misinterpreted. There's no doubt about that. But it's actually based on very sound scientific principle. And it's based on the dopaminergic reward system. And the dopaminergic reward system is how we learn what to desire. Now, why this is important is in cases like drug addictions, what happens is that this system learns that the drug is really, really, really important. What's underappreciated, that in health in general, this is the system where we learn what is important. Our desire system is what leads us to what's healthy. And so if we can learn through the system what is healthy, living a healthier lifestyle becomes easier.
John, this is right up your alley, man.
Yeah, no, I was just
he's like right in there, because he's all about this pathway, the dopamine pathway and everything.
There's when you're talking about dopamine, what most people don't realize that, addicts do have what is called the addiction gene with Dr. Kenneth Blum, who did the sentinel work on dopamine. And he found the DRD2 ALE1 variant gene, was prevalent in addicts. Now, just because you have that gene doesn't mean you're going to be an addict, because such a thing as epigenetics. And epigenetics means the social environment can change the gene expression. But, dopamine is a very important molecule along with serotonin. But most people think it's manufactured in the brain, but it isn't. I don't know if you're familiar with the second brain, which is your microbiome.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where dopamine and serotonin are born, let's say. Then it goes up what is known as the vagus nerve to the brain and deposits it. Now, if you have a gene that's not functioning properly, you don't actually get enough dopamine and serotonin in there. So you start seeking other pleasurable things, other behaviors, drugs. It's not just drugs, it's everything.
Yeah. And I think what's underappreciated, so this dopaminergic reward system, all of us have it. It motivates all of us. But for some of us, it motivates us towards what's healthy. And for some of us, it motivates us towards what's unhealthy. And so we don't think of drug addicts as highly motivated, but they are highly motivated to get the drug of choice. Now, it's also possible to be highly motivated for other things. So there's a friend of mine, and this is what the Desire Clinic is all about. It's trying to understand, how do people who actually live a healthy lifestyle live a healthy lifestyle? And the conventional answer is, oh, they're following all the rules, they're doing all of these things that they're supposed to be doing, they're following the guidelines, whatever. But when you actually talk to people who live a healthy lifestyle, that's actually not what's happening. And so I often think of a friend of mine, her name's Mary. She's 94 years old. And I met her on the dance floor. She dances 5 days a week. And she's legally blind. 94, legally blind, dances 5 days a week. Her desire system is highly attuned to dancing. She's highly motivated to go dancing.
My mother was 84. That's what she used to do, dancing.
What?
My mother was 84, and that's what she used to do, highly motivated to go dancing.
Exactly. And the reason that they're motivated to go dancing is because it's tapped into this desire system. And it's the same system that leads people to something that can be very good for them, that can also lead them to something that's very bad for them. And so this dopamine is motivating for everyone. It's just what it's connected to is different for each person.
Well, here's another piece of the puzzle, because it's a very complicated system we're talking about here. Now, what are co-contributing factors to these other adverse behaviors? Okay, you can have a low thyroid, which causes depression and anxiety. You can have leaky gut syndrome, H. pylori, hyperglycemia, closed head injuries, all of this, and also low testosterone causes depression and anxiety. So if your body is out of homeostasis, your dopamine is not going to work as well. Excuse me, because everything is out of balance.
No, it is an incredibly complex system. And to say that we understand each individual component, that's never quite accurate. Like, there's always these complex systems, and then it's a matter, how do you actually deal with the systems that we have? And too often, I think what we do is we fight the systems we have, as opposed to understand how they work and how can we work with those systems to get where we want to go.
So if you don't mind me chiming in for a minute, you're talking about figuring out ways to assign healthy behaviors with the dopamine. Because now, like you said, an addict is motivated because the dopamine flows with the drug, and it's, and you're saying that these people who develop healthy habits have connected that to their dopamine. But have you figured out how to make that connection? I think everybody here is basically just saying, well, I'll just keep doing it until I get used to it, and then, or do it until I like it. But is it more than that?
Yeah. So, I mean, there is. So first of all, in health or in general, you need to know that you need to make that connection in the first place, right? So a lot of people, when they try and live a healthier lifestyle, they're like, oh, I need to know more about health. I need to do all these healthy things. I need to eat the salad because I'm supposed to. They don't look at, hey, how can I lead a more pleasurable life? That's not the question that they're asking. And the question we should be asking is, how do we lead a more pleasurable life so that we actually can learn through dopamine how to lead that life? And so the learning that's important in health isn't the learning that happens intellectually, it's the learning that happens through experiences. And same with someone who's recovering from drug addiction. I don't claim to have the answers for how to recover from a drug addiction. When this system gets out of whack, it's complex. But in one form or another, for you to become fully recovered from a drug addiction, you need to have things in your life that are meaningful. You need to have to reconnect it to things that are meaningful.
That's true. But here's the what most people don't look at. You have to, it's like this. If you're not in shape and all of a sudden now you love running a marathon, you're not going to get too far. So first you have to get in shape. So if your body, your mind, and your spirit is not functioning properly, I'm not saying it has to be 100%, but you have to look at what you have to work with in the beginning. It's easy to say, well, we got to do pleasurable things, but maybe you're not capable. It's just like telling that blind person. I used to teach the blind, by the way, and the handicapped people. Say, listen, I want you to go see this movie. Well, obviously they can't. They're blind. So you got to work within the framework of where people are. And,
And so understanding how the system works really helps you work within that framework. So the main power that the system has, right? So the power of the dopaminergic reward system, the function it has in our brain is it controls what we think about.
You have to be able to, first of all, you can know all this stuff. Knowledge is power, but action's where it's at. So just knowing something doesn't mean you're going to do something. You need the motivation.
Absolutely. We 100% agree on that.
Right, but you need the motivation to do it. So what you have to look at, in my humble opinion, is what is preventing me from being motivated. And it's not just necessarily dopamine. What it is that all these other co-contributing factors to the human condition that causes people not to be motivated.
Yeah, and so for a drug addict, what happens is that the drug overtakes their motivation system, and they are highly motivated, but they're highly motivated for the wrong thing. So how do you reconnect that motivation to things that are actually important to them? And that's the $1 million question. Now, there's millions of answers to that question. For each person, it will be different, and it's talking about little experiences. Maybe the first step is a rehab program where you detach dopamine as much from the drugs. That maybe that's the first step. Maybe the first step is finding a friend who's gone through this, and you get a little bit more from that relationship, from that friend. There's a million different ways of figuring out how to deal with it. But I think sometimes when you're in the thralls of addiction, when I talk to those people, it feels like there's something that's fundamentally wrong with them. That desire is a bad thing. But desire isn't a bad thing. What's bad if that desire is connected to the wrong thing. And so, how do you reconnect it? And there's many different ways.
Yeah, but see, here's one of the problems. I'm a recovering addict. So I'm one of those people, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
The way what happens is that most people are in denial. I know I was. I didn't have a problem. You had the problem. Okay? So first of all, that's the first hurdle for most
Absolutely.
people. So until you can get past that hurdle, you can't put yourself in the right direction because you think you're already in the right direction.
Absolutely, because you're certain that the thing that you're chasing is the right thing to be chasing.
Right.
That's
So what is your procedure that you do to help people that come to you?
Yeah.
What is your process?
No. So the first question is asking questions. Like the first step is asking questions. Hey, what in your life? Because an addict, what will happen to them, and I don't treat addictions per se.
No.
If the addiction is really strong, it's out of my scope of practice. I'm not medically treating addictions. But let's
go with something that's common for you to come across, where somebody's going to take a bad behavior and convert it into a good behavior and attach the reward to it. So give us a common idea.
So a common idea would be someone who comes to me who has very unhealthy eating habits.
Okay, good.
Right. And so what will happen for them, and honestly, I don't even mind going with a drug example because it's a really fascinating one. But what will happen for someone with eating habits is think of the food that is most important to you, or think of a food right now.
Pizza.
That's the first food that comes to mind. What about you, John?
What about you, John?
Me, everything.
Every food,
whatever's in front of them.
Everything that you want, right? And so, but what you have is, so for some people, that was not the best example to start out with, but I do love all food too. It's such a great answer to that question. But no,
but I know I should not be eating pizza, but
exactly.
I get excited that I want pizza. And it becomes like a focus that I can't get rid of.
Yeah, well, me too. I love pizza. I'm Italian because I love pizza.
And I would much rather I would much rather really desire a piece of fruit or salad because I know that'd be better for me, but I don't. Is
There you
there
go.
something we can do?
Yes. So the first step is you're not going to get to desiring the salad if you only ever eat salad because you're supposed to eat salad. It's just not going to happen that way.
Okay.
The way that you're going to get to enjoying a salad would be to start to look in your environment to find things that are actually healthy for you, that you like eating, right? How do you actually implement in that life? And then how do you actually work with this system so that the first thought you have isn't pizza. The first thought you have is how do I, I don't know, the salad that I have in my fridge, but, so how do you work with that system? And there are many, many ways. And sorry, I'm not answering the question really well, but we'll get there.
Okay.
Okay, well, one of the ways is that I know that,
Yeah.
I work out, I'm in really good shape.
Yes.
And the way I do it is this is for my health. So I have the
Yes.
desire to be healthy
Yes.
because I know getting older, okay, is really not the answer, is getting older and have a quality life.
Yes. And that's exactly right.
So those are the drivers for me. Now, do I
Yes.
always do them? No, I fall
No.
off the wagon
Yes.
because sometimes I do have that desire. And I believe, you can have what I call a cheat meal, okay,
Yeah.
every once in a while, just to satisfy that little demon up there that says, hey, have a pizza. Hey, your cholesterol's through the ceiling and the triglycerides, and you're getting sicker, but you can have one slice,
Yeah.
So, and that's the way you have to work. You have to see what the drivers are, I believe.
Yeah. And so the drivers is like, what are you motivated to actually do? And how do you reattach that motivation?
Right. So what's driving you is what the story is. Most of the time, I know people that have heart attacks, for instance. I had clients that had that. All of a sudden, they change their diet because what happens? Fear is a great motivator.
Mm-hmm. Now,
So
the question I have for you, when they change their diet, how permanent is that change?
Okay. As permanent as the individual, it all depends who they are. If they forget what it was like, okay, that they were scared that they were going to die, all right, they'll go back to their old behaviors because, see, a neural pathway is created with these behaviors in your brain, right?
Yeah.
It's like a person walking like the Indians going through the woods and they have this pathway that they follow. Now, what you want to do is create a new pathway and you want to eventually have the grass grow over that old pathway.
Exactly.
So as long as that neural pathway is still there that you can actually see it, let's say we want to bring it into the physical world, okay, you're most likely to go to that pathway. So that's why time and consistency what creates a new pathway. Otherwise, doing it periodically doesn't work very well.
And the other thing, if you look at the research that creates that new neural pathway, is pleasure. Pleasure is what helps release that dopamine, which is what causes that neural pathway to form, which is why we can't ignore pleasure.
That's true, but I think that's more towards the middle to the end of that procedure because fear is a driver and it takes time to where you start seeing the benefits of, let's say, eating properly. Like I was 244, I'm now 217. And I was looking at my behaviors and what was my drivers was eating properly, working out more, doing the things I needed to do. And what happens is over time and being consistent, see, sometimes I'm inconsistent and I don't get the desired results. But when I am consistent, I do. So that's giving me the desire and the energy to keep moving forward because I'm seeing progress. So it's a whole system. I don't think it's just one thing that drives the ship. I think it's a whole system that's working.
It's an incredibly complex system, and anyone suggests they understand it completely is not accurate in terms of the level of knowledge that they think
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
But there are pieces that we do know of
Yeah.
that is a good beginner. You know, it's like what does it call, a diet for dummies? You know? So on that type of thing, and drug addiction is a whole other ballgame. A lot of times people they go to jail. They learn that way. They almost die. They may learn that way, not necessarily sometimes. And they're just tired, sick and tired of being sick and tired. So it's different for everyone, just like you said earlier. So you can't just say one shoe fits all, because everyone is different. Now there are similarities, but everyone is different.
Yeah.
So
Dan.
the Desire Clinic, what is the setup for that? As far as, you created this to help people, obviously.
Yeah.
What exactly are we talking about as far as, the kind of things that you can offer to people?
I come to you, what do they do?
And help them to learn.
Absolutely. So the first thing we have is workshops on how the system works. So we have a workshop on deliciousness and nutrition, for instance. And how does deliciousness tie to nutrition? Because we have all these senses that are there to try and detect what's in our food. So that's one workshop we have. We have another workshop on exercise and motivation. So how do we get more motivated for exercise? We have another workshop on desire and addictions. And the addictions that I tend to deal with are a little lower level than what you deal with. But addictions like phone addictions, those kind of things, why do we keep on falling into these same traps? And it's the same loop, whether it's a severe addiction or a small addiction.
That's all. It's more severe, that's all, right.
It's the same loop, right? And so we have a workshop on that. So there's a 3-week workshop on that. And we also have, and then finally, what we do is living a healthy lifestyle is actually a really practical problem. It's not some theoretical, I need to know everything that's right. How do we design a life that actually is so that desire and pleasure leads us to what's healthy? And there's small little changes you can make in your life specifically, and that's where we offer our individual coaching. How do we actually, so if you look at it, it's funny, the decisions we have to make are often way smaller than we think they are. So if you look at someone like Mary, the person that I introduced at the very beginning of the show, the 94-year-old blind dancer, she started dancing when she was 60. And what happened was there was a friend who asked her to come to a dance, and she liked it. And before she knew it, she was dancing more and more and more. And so what I do is I help people identify the decisions that will help build over time, as opposed to the ones that are continuously a struggle. And Mary doesn't have to struggle to motivate herself to dance. She does it because that's what she wants to do.
Well, there's a social, because I'm also used to be a dance teacher. So
cool.
There's
what kind
a
of dance do you teach?
So ballroom dancing.
Nice.
So there's also a social component to dancing. And especially when you get older, people feel lonely. They don't feel as connected. And when they start to learn how to dance and they start to be able to get dancing, then they go out and they meet people and they dance, and then they feel free. And this whole sense, there's a whole other thing that raises your dopamine. So
absolutely.
There's a whole connection with every one thing leads to the next thing. And you can do small little changes, like you're saying, which is true. It's like if you want to lose weight, if you change one little thing in your diet, that's not the proper thing to eat or drink, you'll start to lose the weight you want to lose, and you'll start to feel more energy. And then you'll change another thing. And it's little steps. If you can't, people don't take giant steps to this stuff.
Can I tell you something that really impacted my life?
Sure.
Once?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm a total geek. I listen to podcasts. I don't even really listen to music, or that was my existence 5 years ago. Then this lady stayed with me. Her name was Norma Miller. And I ran an Airbnb. She stayed with me by complete chance. And when she stayed with me, first of all, again, she was 96 years old. She was a swing dancer that was in all the old black and white clips.
Wow.
And she stayed with me, and she was a badass. Am I allowed to say badass on this show?
Yeah, of course.
She was a total badass. And she was just having so much fun. And I was like, okay, I guess I got to take your workshop. I went to that dance workshop, and yes, at the beginning, I was awful at dancing. I didn't even listen to music. I couldn't keep a beat at all, right? At the beginning, it was really, really hard. But I saw that people were having fun there. And so, yes, at the beginning, you might need some assistance as you're exploring these new things. And that's part of what we offer at the Desire Clinic is, hey, yeah, this is hard. How do we actually get through this? But over time, prior to the pandemic, I was dancing 5-6 days a week. That was one little small decision. I never would have guessed that it would have transformed my life like that. And now I'm a decent dancer. Like, friends of mine have asked me to be their music video. When COVID hit, I was in Spain at a dance event. Like, it's amazing the transformation that can happen if you tap into the system. Absolutely. But if you're always fighting the system, it's much harder to have that same level of transformation.
Well, people are afraid of change. And, like I talk about addiction treatment, that it's 70 years behind the times. And they keep doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results. And, therapists, as far as I'm concerned, we're supposed to be about change. Well, one of the things we have to look at, we have to change ourselves also in our approaches so we can get the best results. And most people just stay with the same thing over and over again. So what you're talking about, life, is you're right on the money. To do different things in life. And a lot of people don't have that courage, okay, because they feel ashamed or they feel inadequate or whatever. And if you have somebody giving you support, like a coach, okay, to support you on the way. My mother and I used to teach dancing in our clinic to the addicts. And a lot of them didn't want to do it. And the reason was because they don't want to seem stupid. They said, I had to get drunk before I danced. I said, you ever see a drunk guy dance? And the whole place started laughing. I said, if you want to make an idiot out of yourself, get drunk and dance. Okay? So when they see my mother and I dancing, and then we took each client and danced with them, and everybody was like a little bit robotic and things, because that's normal when you learn something that you're not familiar with. And then eventually they started to see it wasn't as hard as they thought it was, and they started to have fun. And so what you're saying is right on the money.
Yeah, and it takes some time to learn it, right? It takes some time to, and learning that happens through the system. It doesn't happen automatically. If you don't learn how to learn through the system, your lifestyle tomorrow is going to be very similar to your lifestyle today. But if you learn the learning that happens through the system, it's actually possible for small decisions to build over time, as opposed to always making these big goals that we're constantly falling short of.
We almost set impossible goals on purpose, or we make them especially painful. Like, if I'm going to switch to salad, I'll buy the most god-awful, disgusting salad possible just so I can say I don't like this, right? Instead of going out and looking for fruits and vegetables that light me up and figuring out a way to make a salad that I like.
Well, we sabotage that stuff, absolutely.
Yeah. And there's always going to be a challenge with pizza, right? Pizza is delicious. I'm not against. There's always going to be some challenge with that. But I do believe that the difference between someone with a reasonably healthy lifestyle and someone with a very unhealthy one, it's all about what they desire. Someone who eats a reasonably balanced diet isn't doing it because the USDA food guide told them to eat that way. They're doing it because they found ways in their life to eat in a way that's very pleasurable to them.
Well, also eating is another form of medication for some people. That's how they medicate their emotions and their feelings, so they just eat. I know I used to do that years ago. And, so it's like getting the good direction, the right direction from the right people. Everything is always a challenge. I mean, I teach the martial arts also. So when I get students in the beginning, of course, if you tell them to punch, do this, they do this, But
it's hard. You should have seen me when I started dancing, man. It was bad.
Were there villagers with torches coming up on you and stuff?
It was bad. I mean, my first memory of dancing was like back in junior high. Like, I think I was trying to be like all cool and then the next day you come to school and they're imitating and you're like, oh man, I should have just not tried at all, right? And so then in my 30s to discover that, I actually can learn how to do this. It took some time, but now
absolutely nothing is immediate.
Yeah.
But just the fact that you had the courage to do that and the fortitude to continue. See, it's consistency that is the really mother of everything. If you're not
Especially
consistent, they're not going to work.
especially at the beginning. So at the beginning, when you're doing something hard, it's really good to have a structured schedule in place.
Right.
But the consistency builds on itself if you start to become motivated, because
Absolutely.
that's tapping into your desire system.
Well, let me ask you a question, because a lot of this is, if you're tapping into that pleasure center, into that reward center, okay, what does your attitude have? What part does your attitude have to play in that? Because if I got the attitude that, listen, I want to do this, and even if it's the best thing in the world, I'm going to just hate it because I don't want to like it. Is that a battle as well for people, Kiosh?
What? Yeah. So the best way to create that battle is, hey, you should do this.
Yeah. Tell me to do something I don't want to do it. Tell me not to do something I want to do it.
And so in my sorry, there's some feedback there. In my estimation, we've gone about achieving a healthy lifestyle in exactly the wrong way. We've gone around telling people you should be doing all of these things. When a more productive way of engaging with people is like, check out all these wonderful things that exist that can make your life better. And so we've been focusing on the wrong kind of learning. We've been focusing on learning that happens through the cerebral cortex, through intellectual processes. These are the things that you need to do, when we should be focusing on learning that happens through our system.
Well, so it's more attraction than promotion in a way, right?
It sounds like
So that sounds what it sounds like.
Sounds like the self-help group.
It's
Same thing.
Give them options to be attracted to. Don't just tell them what to do.
It's so it's so funny. Like and food is another good example. So like on one side we always say behavior change is hard, right? We think of behavior change as something that's really hard. But in the past 10 years, there's something that we all started doing for 2 or 3 hours a day, and no one told us to do it. It's this right here.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, and meanwhile, we can't get anyone to exercise for 15 minutes a day. Now, the difference is, and we've all changed. We've all done it, and we've done it without even knowing. People are telling us not to be on these things, right? And so it's so funny that in health, we focused on this intellectual knowledge as opposed to knowledge that we learn through. So in health, we have on one side, we have people advertising fast food. They're trying to tap into our desire system. And on the other side, we have someone telling you, it's this detailed document of all the things you're supposed to be eating. Which are you going to pay more attention to? The burger or that detailed document? The burger, right?
The one that smells like McDonald's.
Yeah. So why don't we start fighting fire with fire?
Make it attractive.
What you're really saying is you want people to get into rapport with whatever they're attempting to do, instead of making it like, this is what you have to do. If you follow this way, when I treat addicts and alcoholics, I don't tell them what to do. I say, listen, how's your way working? Well, maybe you might want to consider doing it differently. It's just easier that way. You don't tell people what to do. They don't just listen. That's all.
Exactly. And I think from an inside, when you're going through the thralls of addiction, I think it's sometimes really hard to imagine, because it really does seem like that drug is the solution to everything you need. It really does seem that way, because your desire system is constantly guiding you towards that. And if I can either have that life, or I can have a life where everyone's telling me what to do.
Gotcha.
And if that's the choice, well, I actually just want to, but if I can have a life that's actually just better, now it will take some time for it to help people discover it, because when that desire system is falsely engaged, it really is powerful. But if you can gradually get people to start to reconnect it to something else, it's powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Your clinic, what do you have an addiction treatment center?
No, I sold that in 2001, but I do individual therapy out now and then. I do trauma work with people coming back from Iraq, Afghanistan, and police officers that have been in shootings.
Got it.
I do all that kind of work.
Yeah,
Cool.
the addiction training center's on my end, but maybe you and I will connect on a different show and talk about my end of stuff and see how it connects with you. But John's really he's big into helping a lot of places. He consults, he lectures, he travels. There's not much you don't do anymore, John. You're probably busier now than when you were working. You're like partially retired, but you're working full time.
I don't know.
How's that work?
I thought I was retired.
No,
but it was a word.
No, it's just a word.
You seem to have a big lust for life. Like
I do.
you go
I
at it and you go hard.
I love what I do.
That's
I've
so
done
awesome.
so many things in my life. If you really want to see what I've done in my life, I wrote my life story, actually, autobiography. It's called The Kid from the South Bronx Who Never Gave Up. And how I turned $300 into $45 million with selling my treatment center, my partners and I.
Wow.
And there wasn't a bank robbery involved. I swear there wasn't.
Wow.
We didn't rob.
Well,
anybody.
one.
For you.
So I'm still giving back. To me, it's not about making money. It's helping God's kids.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
That's
Wonderful
what
that you're doing
my
that.
life is all about, and Scott's too. And I think if you keep doing the next right thing, the universe treats you better. Doesn't mean shit's not going to happen, okay? But you'll have the tools to work through it.
Yeah.
And that's basically, I think, what we're all talking about, we're all doing.
Absolutely. Now,
Yeah,
Kiosh,
yeah.
before we go, I want to talk to you real quick. How does somebody, because a lot of people might be watching this and saying, you know what, I've tried so many different things. Maybe these are the guys I want to talk to about changing my lifestyle and doing something different. How would they get a hold of you? Where do they find you and all of that?
Absolutely. So my website is www.thedesireclinic.com. And on there you can book a completely free consultation. We can chat. I'm super not pressury. I just love chatting with people. And we can see if this is something for you. So yeah.
That's good.
www.thedesireclinic.com.
Okay, terrific. I assume they can email you you got your emails there and everything too? And
Discover at thedesireclinic.com. My number is there too.
Okay,
We're very
beautiful.
approachable. Yeah.
Excellent. And that's good. I'm glad that they get a chance they could talk to you, and because there's so many people saying I got the answer for all your problems. And
There's
you know
so
what? You
many
get burned
people.
out on it.
Oh, absolutely. And often, so I'll tell you a little bit more about my background. And so I was a physical therapist before all of this.
Really?
And
Wow.
I was telling people to exercise, right? Like, that's what I was telling people to do. And I was in this palliative care ward. One more story, and then we'll finish it up. I was in this palliative care ward, and I was telling all these patients to exercise, and they're in a ton of pain. And I go in their rooms, and it's really hard to motivate them. Now, there was one group of patients in that palliative care ward. They were in the same amount of pain, same conditions, everything like that, but they were way more motivated than everyone else. Can you guys guess who it was?
The ones without a trainer.
Yeah, it's a good guess. Can you guys guess?
Well, they were doing things that they liked.
Yeah, you're onto it. They were the smokers.
The smokers.
They were the only ones motivated enough to get out of bed to go outside to have a smoke.
Oh, that's how they I thought you meant something.
Oh,
I could not get anyone to, and that's when I was like, you know what, this thing called desire, and of course, smoking releases nicotine, which releases dopamine, which taps into the desire system. I was like, this system is powerful. It can get someone who's dying out of bed.
wow.
And meanwhile, I'm coming here with this tool that is like, hey, you should exercise, and it's just not nearly as powerful. And so why don't we tap into the thing that's more powerful?
Have a pack of cigarettes outside, so if you exercise, you can get this for free.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Or maybe not feed them in bed. Maybe have the meal outside in the hallway.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Make
there's
adjustments
ways
to lean you
tap
towards
into
a
this.
healthy thing, right?
Well, you always got to work
Exactly.
with the client it's at. And I always tell people, they say, I don't like to exercise. I say, well, look, can you walk? All right. Would you like to swim? Bicycle ride? What would you like to do? Okay,
Yeah.
try new things. Give it a shot. If you don't like it, don't do it.
All good. And there's exactly. And finding those solutions, it's a practical problem. Living a healthy lifestyle is a practical problem. And when you solve that problem well, living a healthy lifestyle is a really pleasurable way to live.
Absolutely.
Kiosh, man, this is brilliant stuff. I love it.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And
And
I'm going
thank
to
you
reach
for
out to you
having me on
about some other shows if you're interested, and we can talk about that.
I would absolutely love that.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right. So once again, Kiosh Iselin from the Desire Clinic, and we've defined it. It's probably not what you thought at the beginning, but it is all about if you're looking to make changes in your life. Maybe if you can make a connection to that part of your brain that's going to make it much more desirable for you to do so, then you're ahead of the game. And this is the guy you want to give a call. So thedesireclinic.com is where you want to go to learn more about it. Again, thanks a lot, Kiosh.
Thanks, Kiosh.
Thank you guys so much.
John,
Okay,
thank you. We've had another great show. And
here we go again.
just remind everybody that if you like the show, that you join our YouTube page and click the notification button. And, of course, share your comments and share the show with others.
And follow us.
Follow us. We'll catch you next time here on the Beat Your Addiction. I forgot what show we were on, John.
We're on one.
Beat Your Addiction. All right.